Hi, I'm Luke Alexander, President and CEO of Newcore Gold. I'm going to give you an overview of our district scale exploration project in Ghana, the Enchi project. As I take you through the presentation, I will be making forward-looking statements, so I'd encourage you to go to our website and read the disclaimer. While you're there, I'd also encourage you to have a look at some of the content we put on our website, but also sign up for some of the different social media platforms that we're on. We're very active on LinkedIn, Twitter, we've got a YouTube channel, and a number of our existing and prospective investors have found that very useful. First of all, a few of the things that we think differentiates Newcore from a number of other companies out there. First of all, the management team and board involved in the company has a proven track record of making shareholders a lot of money with a lot of past successes in the mining sector. We're very strongly institutionally backed by mining focus and precious metals focused institutional funds. We've grown that from about 0 to 40% over the last year and a half. Management and insiders are very well aligned with shareholders, which I think is important. We own 27% of the business and ultimately think as shareholders first, so are good stewards of capital from that perspective. We're operating in Ghana, which is a tier 1 jurisdiction, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit of detail as well. We do currently have a 1.4 million ounce inferred resource, and that's a very good resource for us to be building off of. We are in the midst of the largest ever drill program on the project, 90,000 meters. So we think there's a big opportunity for us to significantly grow that resource. We've also underpinned the value of the company by releasing an updated PEA in June. This outlined a $212 million after-tax NPV, after-tax 42% IRR. So really underpins the value of the company for our shareholders. But really what we continue to focus on is exploring across our Enchi project. And then lastly, we've got a very good capital structure. So 120 million shares outstanding and no warrants, which again, I think speaks to the quality of the team and the asset. In terms of my background, I spent 15 years on the investment banking side of the business. 12 of those years I was in London covering all the big global natural resource funds, advising ASX, TSX, London-listed mining companies on different transactions around the world. That's where I got to know the bulk of the team involved here at Newcore, worked very closely with them in a number of the previous companies and current companies they're involved in. Doug Forrester, he's our chairman, co-founder of Newmarket, co-founder of Caliber, which again have both been very successful stories. Blaine Johnson, as well as a co-founder of those companies. Doug Hurst, George Salamis. I think for a company of our size, it's rare that you find such a strong board, and that's one of the things that our shareholders really benefit from. From a management perspective, Greg Smith, he's our VP Exploration. Greg's got over 30 years of exploration experience working in these greenstone-hosted deposits around the world. Mal Carvasca, she comes from a private equity background, has worked on the corporate side with a number of companies and is a key part of our executive team. And then on the ground in country, Dan Wilson, he's our country manager. He's worked on our Enchi project on and off for the past 25 years. He's worked on it directly for the past 10 years. So he's a key part of our management team. ESG is something that's very important for us at Newcore. Our view is that the way to push a project forward and get the most out of it is ultimately to be to make sure that all stakeholders benefit from that project. So as a result, we do try to adhere to as many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals as possible, and that's something that we'll continue to do. From a COVID perspective, we're very fortunate that Ghana has not been as negatively impacted by COVID. But that being said, we do still try to adhere to, we do adhere to all the kind of policies to make sure that our employees and local communities are safe. In terms of capital structure, I mentioned about 120 million shares outstanding, no warrants. Management and insiders are very well aligned with shareholders. We've grown our institutional ownership from about 0% to 40% today. And here's a few of those shareholders, which you'll probably recognize a number of these names. These are companies that are focused on the mining sector, and it's great to have such strong support from such a tier one group of investors. We're also very well supported from the capital markets, investment banking side. We've currently got 5 investment banks covering us from a research perspective, which again, I think speaks to the quality of the asset as well as the team involved. Our balance sheet is very strong. We're currently sitting at about $13 million of cash on the balance sheet. That does fund the largest ever drill program on this project, which is about 90,000 meters. So very good balance sheet to obviously complement our shareholders and research coverage. In terms of Ghana, it is a tier one jurisdiction to be operating in. It's the largest gold producer in Africa globally. It's the 6th largest gold producer. So with that, you get a very supportive government. It's important for the economy. It's important for jobs, the tax base. We also have a huge amount of skilled labor and mining service companies in country for us to draw upon, which is a real benefit for pushing the project forward. Another way to kind of highlight how Ghana is such a great jurisdiction is look at the companies operating in country. You've currently got 4 of the top 10 largest gold producers on the planet who have meaningful operations in country. If we look at Newmont, which you're probably aware is the largest gold company on the planet, they currently have about 14% of their global production coming from Ghana. That's going to increase to about 20% of their production as they expand their Ahafo project. They're going to invest another 750 to 850 million into the country and take them to about 20%. So again, for them to have that kind of exposure to one country, I think speaks for itself in terms of what a great jurisdiction it is. We are situated on one of the 2 prolific gold belts that runs through Ghana. So you've got the Ashanti belt and then the Sefwi Bibiani belt. About 200 million ounces has been historically discovered in Ghana. Great neighbors to the north of us. You've got Kinross's Chirano mine about 50 kilometers away. It sits at a historical endowment of about 5.5 million ounces. Asante's Bibiani mine, that's got an endowment of about 6.5 million. And then you've got one of Newmont's 2 producing mines, the Ahafo mine, which sits at about 15.5 million ounce endowment. That's the asset that I mentioned they're putting another $800 million into. So again, great jurisdiction and a great belt for us to have such a large land package on. Looking at our project in a little bit more detail now, one of the things we always like to highlight is how great the infrastructure is. So we do have a paved road which runs right through the middle of our project to the town of Enchi. Enchi's got about 15,000 people, so it's got a very good labor base for us to draw upon. It's got a university campus, a hospital. It's got all the kind of support services we could want for our project, but it also sits far enough away from our project, about 10 kilometers as a crow flies, that we don't anticipate any issues when it comes time to bringing it into production. About 5 kilometers outside of town, that's where our current core shack sits. Again, this paved road, you can drive 100 kilometers an hour along. You've got a power line which runs right alongside it. There's about a half dozen gas stations scattered throughout our project along this main road. About a 5-10 minute drive down this dirt gravel road here that you can see in the background. You're standing on top of our Boying deposit, very low-lying hills, so easy to get drill rigs around. We've got these dirt roads throughout the project. Another 4 kilometers away, you'd be standing on top of our Sium deposit. Throughout our project, there is significant artisanal and alluvial operations, which again, I think really speak to the gold system that there is. And we've even got a small private mine sitting within our tenement that has been producing since World War I, pick and shovel on a very high grade vein, which again, I think speaks to the exploration opportunity that we've got. Looking at our Enchi project in a little bit more detail, so it is a very large land package, 216 square kilometers in size. We've identified about 25 targets to date. of which we've only drilled on 6 of them, and 4 of them make up our current 1.4 million ounce resource. So lots for us to continue to go after. We did put an updated PEA out on the project in June of this year. It was an update from a historical PEA that we had. We've been able to outline a much larger, more robust project with some of the additional drilling that we've done. And what this PEA really was looking to accomplish was an underpinning of fundamental value for our shareholders. So if we look at the economics of the project, it's a very simple open pit heap leach project. At a $1,650 gold price, you're looking at an after-tax NPV of $212 million, after-tax IRR of 42%. And one of the things that really helps drive the economics is the low capital intensity that's required for a heap leach operation, as well as the fact that we have all of that infrastructure to leverage off of. But for us, the focus remains exploration. This PEA that you're seeing here only included 20,000 meters of our current 90,000 meter program. So where we think we will continue to add ounces and value for our shareholders is by continuing to aggressively drill across the project. In terms of the current resource, 1.4 million ounces, as I mentioned. If you look at all the historical RC and diamond drilling that feeds that resource, you're looking at about 76,000 meters of drilling. So needless to say, our view is that the 70,000 meters of drilling that we're completing at the moment as part of that additional drilling that did not make it into the resource update, we think will meaningfully add to that resource. The other thing I would highlight is the grade. We currently sit at 0.62 grams per ton. 85% of that sits within the oxide transitional zone, so really lends itself to a heap leach operation, which is a real benefit for us in terms of the economics of the project. And typically you're looking at about 0.4 to 0.5 grams per ton for heap leach projects around the world. In terms of the exploration, we are focused on a number of our existing resource areas, as well as previously drill tested areas, and then going to be drilling some new areas for the first time ever. So it really is a multi-pronged exploration approach. All of our current deposits remain open along strike. Sium is our largest deposit, sits at about 725,000 ounces. Followed by Boeing at about 500,000 ounces, Nyam, and then Quachikrum. We have been stepping out at all of these different areas. We've been adding mineralized material. We've got a 2.5 kilometer gap here at Nyam. We've stepped right through that gap, had some and are waiting for results to come back from that, as well as we're targeting some new areas for the first time ever. Sium, as I mentioned, is our largest deposit, sits at about 725,000 ounces. It does remain open completely along strike. As I walk you through these models, what you'll be looking at is the pit-constrained resource that we've currently got. And then all of these mineralized holes that you see sitting outside of that are holes that we've drilled since our resource update was completed. Boeing, it's our second largest deposit, sits at about 500,000 ounces. And this is a really good example of all of the drilling that we've done that sits outside of our current pit constrained resource. What we're looking at Boeing here is we've got a 2.8 kilometer mineralized pit constrained area. We've since then added about 400 meters to the north, over 1 kilometer to the south, and it's pretty easy to do the back of the envelope calculation on what kind of impact that may have on our resource. The other focus has been drilling up dip and down dip to ultimately widen the overall size of the pits at all of our resource areas, and we've had some very good success from that perspective. Looking at Boeing and some of the cross sections here, what we're looking at here in this hole number 236. This is a hole that did not exist when when this pit was designed. It's pretty clear to see, 1.24 grams over 5 meters, 0.9 grams over 69 meters, what the potential impact of deepening and widening the pit that mineralized material will have. So lots of examples when we look at this 3D model of holes that we've drilled that are sitting outside of the current pit constrained resource. And that's something that we think will really add to resource over time. The next area that I'll talk about is the Nyam and Quachikrum. So Nyam's our third largest deposit. We can see it sitting here. It's about a 1.8 kilometer pit constrained resource. We did add a maiden resource down at Quachikrum as part of our June resource update. We have been stepping out to the north, to the south at both of these deposits. You can see some of the successful drilling that we've been having. And then sitting in between the two, you've got a 2.5 kilometer gap area. We have now stepped right through this entire gap area with the goal of proving up that the structure runs right through here and that we'll be able to add resource over time within that gap. So maybe to recap in terms of how we systematically approach our drilling, what we're looking at here on this map on the right-hand side is all of our targets, previously drill tested areas, as well as our resources that are spread across our property. And then on the pyramid on the left, this is how we approach our exploration. At the top of our pyramid here, you've got our existing resource areas. As I just highlighted to you, those make up about 1.4 million ounces. We've been stepping out at all those areas, finding additional mineralization, which we see as kind of low risk exploration given all of the geological understanding that we've got. We're then going back to previously drill tested areas with the goal of ultimately moving those up the pyramid and into the resource category. We're then also looking to add new areas, make new discoveries, get those into the drill tested category, and over time look to add those to our resource and wrap deposits around them, with the goal of ultimately, if we're talking in a couple of years from now, this pyramid's been flipped upside down. We've added a number of additional areas to the top of the pyramid, and we've grown the overall size of the resource. The last thing that I'll talk to you about is the opportunity at depth, which would be the final piece to our exploration kind of strategy. What we're looking at here is a long section of our Enchi project, and we're comparing that to Kinross's Chirano mine. What we've done is we've superimposed the depth of the oxides, which again, 85% of our current resource sits above that level. Those 3D models that I was taking you through, the average vertical depth of those pits is only down to 63 meters. So we've really still just scratched the surface from an exploration perspective. We then compare that to Kinross's Chirano mine. And what we see is that as you get into the sulfides, these greenstone hosted deposits really start to grow in size and increase in grade. As part of this 90,000 meter program, for the first time ever, we are starting to drill below 150 meters, and we've started to have some very encouraging results as we've started to drill deeper. Moving back into the 3D model and having a look at this cross section at Nyam. Again, what we've got here is very nice heap leach material near surface. That's what that pit is capturing. But then as we got down to about 175 meters below surface in this hole number 45, we've hit 5.4 grams over 9 meters, 1.6 over 40 meters. Sitting 100 meters away in this hole number 47, again, this is one of the deepest holes drilled here at Nyam. As we got down to 175, 200 meters below surface, we've hit 1.94 over 25 meters, with 5.8 grams over 7 meters sitting within that. So this is the kind of high grade that we're expecting to find across our project. And when I spin this 3D model around and show you a long section of it, it's very clear to see that there's just a lack of drilling that's been done at depth here. What these holes are that you see here are every single hole that's ever been drilled here. So with this discovery that we've made in the higher grades in hole 45 and 47, we will look to ultimately follow up on that success, put some additional holes in with the goal of kind of proving up one of these higher grade feeder zones. Over at Boeing, we've also had some very encouraging results from a high grade perspective. This is actually the highest grade hole that we've had thus far on the project, this hole number 250. As we got down to kind of 125 meters below surface, we hit 95 grams over 2 meters. Within that same hole, an additional 13 grams over 1 meter. So very pleased with those kind of results, and needless to say, we'll continue to chase that. Here's another great example, this hole number 276. That hole didn't exist, nor did hole 250 when this pit here was designed. This hole number 256 has 155 meters of mineralization in it. So that's the kind of thing that, again, we think will meaningfully grow the overall size of the pits and also our resource. So maybe just to recap, Newcore is led by a tier 1 team who has a proven track record of making money for shareholders and are truly aligned through our 27% ownership in the business. Very strong capital structure and well supported by deep pocket institutional investors and tier 1 investment banks out of Toronto. Ghana is a tier 1 jurisdiction. We're very fortunate to have amassed such a large land package when we did. We do have very strong economics in the PEA that we put out. We see this as an underpinning of value for our shareholders, but where we're really going to create value, in our view, is by continuing to aggressively drill and grow the overall size of the resource. As I mentioned, we're very active on the various social media platforms. We've got a YouTube channel, always keen to engage with existing and prospective investors. So I'd encourage you to go and look us up on any of those platforms or get in touch directly. Thank you very much for your time.